these first sections in part 1 provide an introduction to this past, present and future spread. And an example might be useful at this point so we can see where we're heading. So this is part 1, section 6, and it's called, Here is an Example. So somebody, let's say it's a young woman, she comes along and she wants a reading and she says, tell me about my love life. So we're going to accept her question as she asked it, and we're not going to get her to change it because tell me about my love life is what she wants to know. So what you do is you shuffle, you pick 3 cards for the past, present, one for the past, one for the present, one for the future. You start with all 3 cards face down, and then you turn the card for the past. And let's say it's a 2 of batons. We start with the past and do what we can with the card in this position. It's the past, so we know we're going to be talking about something that has happened, or maybe something that didn't happen, right? Because maybe a reverse card is something that didn't happen, or it can be something you wanted or something you didn't want. But it's the past. It's not right now. It's not next week or next month. So don't be casual or slack about how you talk about the card. It may be repeated in the present or it carried over into the future, the influence of the card or what it shows or the conditions that it shows. But at this point, we're describing the past. So we should talk about it that way. The Rider deck, 2 of batons, shows a man standing on top of a tower, right? So we see a man in the past. So having that card there can be pointing to the woman's last important relationship, if there was one. And how do we know if there was one? I think the simplest thing is just to ask the questioner, was there somebody recently in the past? Or has there been an important relationship? Because often people will think, I, the reader, need to know this without having to ask. But somehow, I don't think we have to prove ourselves. And it's also, we can remember, we have a certain amount of energy for the reading. And you can use up energy figuring out answers to questions that you could just ask, was there somebody there? Or did this happen? And let the person already knows the answer, so they can confirm or deny what you tell them. But it seems like a waste of energy to ask people or to give people information or tell them what they already know. So the 2 batons can be somebody in the past, or it can be describing, if there wasn't a person in the past, it can be describing the type of person she was looking for, right? Because it's the 2 batons, that kind of individual. So we use the picture to describe her past relationship. And what are we going to say? It would make sense to say that the past relationship would have been with a powerful, well-off, successful, ambitious man. I mean, looking at the fellow standing on top of the tower, though that kind of description would make sense. And this could have been somebody who maybe was a help to her, right? Because he had influence. Because again, looking at the fellow on top of the tower, he looks like he's got influence. This could be the degree or the amount of influence would depend on his position in society. So he might be a manager in a company or somebody who had the power to hire and fire, right? Because that's power. Or maybe he was on the committee of the condo where she lived. Or, because that again is somebody, maybe not power, but you know what I mean? It's somebody who is in a specialized organization or part of a special organization, or maybe in a different way, he was a local council member. It's like somebody involved in politics. You, the reader, don't need to know which it is, right? But just if we can know that it was that type of person in the past, right? It's enough to know that what kind of person it was, and we're going to know more later, and we're going to know more about what to say or what to do with this information later when we see the card for the present and the future. So if there was no last important relationship, then the 2 batons in this case could represent her ideal or her Mr. Right. This could be what she wanted or what she thought she wanted or what she was looking for, right? So we describe what kind of person this was. So I think we can look at this first card as some kind of starting point. But we're going to have more to consider when we look at the next two cards for the present and the future. So if we remember, this first card is a beginning point, it's not the conclusion. So at this point, we don't know for sure how it's going to turn out. But at least we've got a beginning. And we understand that what we say about this first card may have to be changed or modified when we see the other cards for the present and the future. So let's say we've spoken a bit about the Two of Batons. Then we turn the card for the present and we find, let's say, the Four of Cups. And this is the one that shows somebody leaning against a tree and looking at 3 cups ahead of him, but not seeing the fourth in a cloud. Okay, so if the Two of Batons person was, and maybe still is, in the life, or if there is somebody represented by the Two of Batons, then at present, because it's the card for the present, the questioner isn't sure, right, or is thinking about either continuing on with him or changing to a different type of person or a different kind of relationship, because she's seeing 3 cups, but hanging in the air is a fourth one that she doesn't see or that she's not paying attention to. So it could be that you know what you know, the 3 cups ahead of you, but you can't quite get a grip on this other feeling. You're aware of a 4th cup, but you don't quite know what it means or what it's telling you or what you're supposed to do with it, right? Or it could be that 4 of Cups and the 4th cup. Maybe she's wondering about her image or her picture of Mr. Right. So maybe she's seeing what could be different that she might prefer, or what changes she would like in the relationship or with the type of person she's been involved with. Or maybe she's figuring out how can she improve her chances of meeting him. So at this point, I'm presenting you with possibilities. But if this were a real reading, you're going to find that if you just talk based on what the picture shows, you'll find you naturally talk about the right variation of the possibilities. Or you're going to get close enough that the questioner knows what you're talking about. And it's going to make sense to the questioner, even if you, the reader, don't know for sure. The questioner is going to understand what you're getting at or what you're talking about. Or they're going to say, I don't quite get that. What do you mean? And then you can do more. But it's important to remember, I think, that the reading is about the questioner and not about the reader. So you're there to help the questioner understand what's going on and deal more intelligently with whatever the situation is. So now we turn the card for the future, and let's say it's justice, right? This card is describing future conditions, because that was a question, past, present, and future, and the cards answer the question that was asked. This is my position, that cards answer the question that was asked. But a lot of other people like to sort of make things up as they go along and just pick cards and try to put them together to tell a story and don't pay much attention to the question. But this, I think, is a mistake. And we should not just know the question, but write it down, because it's easy to forget what you actually asked. Okay, if we go back to the spread. Right, so since the card for the future, justice in this case, is a major trump, we can say that the future involves somebody important and maybe a lifelong partner or a long-term relationship. So maybe there's going to be marriage or a long-term commitment. And I'm saying this because justice is a major trump. So we're sort of making something out of it, out of the fact that there's a major trump in the future. So we're describing a significant person in the future. Even if book meanings don't typically give marriage for this card, I mean, you can understand it's marriage partly because justice can represent the law and marriage is a legal commitment and all the rest of it. Though I'm not that aware that books would typically say that justice represents marriage. So what else can we say from the picture? remembering that the questioner is looking at the picture too. We see the scales are balanced, so there's harmony and balance. And so we can say there's going to be the balance will be with a partner in the future. 2 scales, 2 people. The card is upright, so it's balance, right? But it could have been reversed, and then we would have seen, or it would have shown, a lack of harmony or a lack of balance. And this is one reason for using reverse cards, to know, it's sort of like to know the default position, we could say. Then we can know if things are going to generally go well and not need too much work. Maybe if the card is upright, or if it's reversed, then things are off balance or not quite in harmony or not quite right. So you're going to have to, or you're going to need to work to get things into harmony, either at the beginning or at various points during the relationship in the future. So it can be pointing to one important key turning point, right? One instance. Or it can be saying from time to time you're going to have to keep coming back and sort of get things balanced again, because it's easy, as we know in relationships, for things to get out of shape. However, here the card is upright, so we can say you're quite together with this person, or you're going to be quite together when you decide the relationship is going to work, or the relationship is a go, that's something that you want. This is the kind of person that you're looking for, or who's going to be right for you and good for you in the future. So we look at justice as well. Justice is wise, and it has other meanings as well, but other characteristics. But if we leave them for the moment, justice is wise. Justice knows how to make a correct decision, we would expect, or we would hope. So with justice upright in the future, it could be saying to the questioner, trust yourself, trust your judgment. And if you do, this relationship is going to be good and useful and fulfilling. So we've been considering these cards, or different cards, for a question asked by a woman. But the questioner could easily have been a man asking about his love life. So we would reconsider the pictures, but from the point of view of a man, and think, okay, with the 2 batons, he was on top, you were talking to a man, you were on top. So maybe there's a saying, it's lonely at the top, as you may have heard that expression. So he's on top, he's looking down at the world from a height. So now he wants companionship, or in the past, he wanted companionship. He had everything maybe, but he wanted companionship or romance. And this is different from before. Or he was looking for someone in a position like his own, so he can be understood. Because, if you've got a high position, a high power position, and you're running a company, there aren't that many people you can communicate with who are kind of equal. So maybe if we take that idea, he was looking for somebody who was on his level, or who had his background, his experience, so that when he spoke about certain problems he was having, the other person could understand what was actually going on. And we go from there. The follow-up here is a card can describe the past, the present, and the future. So pick a card at random and consider what the changes would be and how you would talk about it for the same card if you were using that card to describe the past, and then how you would change things to use it to describe the future, the present rather, and then change it again, how you would use it to describe the future. And it's going to get you more flexible and more able to switch back and forth for seeing a card if it has happened, if it's going on right now, or if it's going to be coming up in the future.